I suppose it's a paradox, isn't it? The Prime Minister declares record deportations, over 24,000 people removed since Labour took office, while simultaneously presiding over the highest number of small boat crossings ever recorded in the first 3 months of a year. So, which is it? Is Britain taking back control or simply treading water? So Keir Starmer's address at the Organised Immigration Crime Summit has the air of firm resolve. He speaks of a fragmented border system inherited from the Conservatives, a chaotic patchwork of police, border force and intelligence agencies, an open invitation for smugglers, he calls it. And he's not wrong at all. The system has been porous, underfunded, under-coordinated for years, and the hostile environment doesn't work. Yet, for all the language of toughness, death traps, vile gangs, shutting down exploitation, the emotional register is curiously at odds with the policy reality. Starmer boasts of a deportation rate unseen in 8 years, 4 major return flights, thousands of enforced removals, but the framing of this success feels clinical. There's almost no recognition that many of those returns may in fact have legitimate asylum claims pending, or, at the very least, have been languishing in costly taxpayer-funded limbo, warehoused in hotels because of bureaucratic inertia within the Home Office. There's where the real scandal lies, not just that people are crossing, but that we still have no functional, humane and timely system to assess their claims. And some of these are perfectly reasonable claims. You can deport 24,000 people if you're doing so while moving the backlog. But if the backlog remains gargantuan and legitimate asylum seekers are indefinitely detained, the exercise feels like posturing rather than progress. The government line is increasingly moralistic, that working-age migrants should stay home and build their own economies. But as any student of post-colonial history or global inequality knows, this assumes a level of state capacity, safety, opportunity that doesn't exist in parts of Iraq, Eritrea, Sudan or Afghanistan, and partly because of our interference. And let's not forget, most asylum seekers arriving by boat do not come from countries that have a perfect that have a perfect system. They come from countries with recognised conflict and repression. That's not comparison. That's not a vague comparison between our system and their system. It's a statistical reality, and to impose ridiculous rules is not compassion, it's aggression, particularly when the people who are travelling so many miles almost certainly had no one to turn to. They turned to the people they knew. They happened to be thrust into the arms of people smugglers because that's the reality. They didn't choose the people smugglers. They probably chose the nearest legal advice that they could find. You know, even in the most European country, you go for legal advice if you're and if you're lucky, you get the right advice. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get complete twaddle, or lies, or exploitation. A tough border policy that doesn't distinguish between economic migrants and genuine refugees risks conflating desperation with illegality. The Rwanda scheme is, of course, a cautionary tale of political gimmickry, and Starmer is right to denounce it. £700 million spent to deport just 4 volunteers, but he hasn't repealed that law. The Rwanda law remains on the statute books. It would have taken 80 years, he reminds us, to deport as many people as Labour has in 9 months. But again, this metric assumes deportation alone is a measure of success. It's not. In fact, the true test of a functional immigration system is threefold: speed, fairness, and deterrence. You process claims quickly, you remove those without grounds, you protect those fleeing war or persecution. So far, we have failed on all 3 fronts, and we've been failing for 15 years or more. And this is the contradiction at the heart of Labour's message. The Prime Minister wants to sound tough, to counter Farage and the populist right, but he risks sounding indistinct from them. When he declares the illegal migration makes him angry, or that Britain has been a soft touch, We hear echoes of the very rhetoric that fueled the Conservatives' years of inaction. We hear a Labour version of Suella Braverman. Without repealing the Nationality and Borders Act, the Illegal Migration Act and the Rwanda Act, Keir Starmer is simply another manifestation, a ghost of Suella Braverman. What's needed now is more than anger, it's clarity. Clarity about how we distinguish genuine asylum seekers from those gaming the system. Clarity about safe and legal routes. Clarity about burden sharing with Europe. And clarity about timelines. Because people cannot wait years for their cases to be resolved. It's all very well to convene 40 nations at Lancaster House and secure £33 million for prosecutions and enforcement, but unless the core dysfunction at the heart of the system, that is the Home Office, its backlog, its inefficiency, its opacity, is addressed, we are simply rearranging border control boats on the channel. And Starmer is right to say it is governments and not gangs who should decide who comes to the UK. But until the state proves it can competently make that decision, that governments can actually address the problem and do so humanely, the public will be unconvinced and the boats will continue to come.